Okay, this is the next tutorial, and I told you in the previous one when I just gave you a brief sampling of what this Ledger software can do for us, that we would have to make some changes to our general journal. So here I'm going to go through some of the changes and show you some of the conventions that we're going to use. I just use for this a text editor that can create a nice clean ASCII file. So I use TextPad, which is a Windows program that you can try out indefinitely, but you can also, for a small amount, buy it from the author, and it's a great little program, a text editor. Anyway, here's the general journal. These first three lines with these semicolons, these are just comments that I'm going to make at the top. But here's my first entry, journal entry. So I have the date. This is the format 2008/January 01, first day 01. This in brackets is just a reference number. In this case, I just put P1 for the first partner and a description of the contributor, or often the payee if it's an account payable. So I've got partner's cash contribution, and it's assets, cash, checking. Again, we can name the accounts anything we want, but we should use the five parent accounts of assets, liabilities, equity, income, expenses. And then we can, again, using the convention I've shown you in previous videos, we go assets, cash, and then it's a sub-account of cash checking, because I'll also have a petty cash. So here it is. The asset was increased by $1,500, and again we're going to use the convention that credits will be negative. I'm also going to put a currency symbol in front, and because I'm in Canada, I use the dollar symbol. Ledger will allow you to have multiple currencies within your general ledger, and there's even a way of converting back and forth between the two. I won't go into that today, but I will discuss that in the future. But this is going to be a Canadian dollar. If you were in the States, it could be an American dollar or Australia or whatever. And in the Google groups, they talk about certain characters like the British pound. I know there's some problem using the British pound symbol, but that's not my problem. So the Google groups seem to have figured out a solution to that. Okay, so these are some typical ledger entries. I wanted to get into the virtual entries, and here's a particular one. This Kinko's Printing does printing of posters. It was done, that's the invoice number 8839. It's an expense, printing posters, 4830. And this GST is an asset that I want to keep track of. And so I paid for it with the Visa card, so liabilities Visa, minus 5149, the sum of these two. But then in square brackets, I want to be able to identify this particular expense as having been the posters that I printed for your first gig, Crazy One. So so I will debit expenses Crazy One posters, and in the virtual transactions credit the expenses printing posters, which was this debit up here. So now when I run reports where I want to see my jobs, it will pick up the debits and credits out of the virtual transactions. But when I want to see them without the virtual transactions, it will ignore these, and it will read off from here. So we'll just go through and I'll show you a couple more like that. So again, this one here, flyers again. I wanted to when I run reports without job costing, it will show an expense to printing flyers and liabilities Visa, but when I run it with job costing, in other words, I show my virtual transactions, it will post that expense to Crazy One flyers. So this is a really fantastic feature. The other one is the inventory, how it can look after inventory. Excuse me. So I'm just going to go find that particular transaction. Here we are. I bought the t-shirts from the T-shirt Emporium, and I bought 25, and this particular suffix is anything I want to use to identify that this is an inventory item. And so in this case, it's going to be Crazy T-shirts. And I put what I paid for them at $10.50. Now notice how I enter that. So the program is smart enough to know that when I'm looking for the cost basis of my T-shirts, it'll actually go through and do this multiplication. And it'll post the inventory of T-shirts as a dollar figure. And when I don't use the cost basis, it will tell me that I've got 25 T-shirts in inventory. That's the GST paid on those T-shirts, and I paid for it with a check. And then later on, I sold some of those T-shirts, so I'll show you how I would enter that sale. Okay, I'll show you how you would enter the sale of T-shirts. So in this particular journal entry, we've sold 15 T-shirts at $35 each, and we've had to charge 5% GST. So we would credit the income T-shirt sales of to $525, and our credits are negative, so negative $525. We would also credit the tax liability that we now have collected for the government and must pay them, GST of $26.25, so that's also a negative. We would increase the assets in our bank, the cash in our bank, because that's what we took in, to $551.25. We also now have to take the 15 T-shirts out of inventory, which is negative 15 KTS at their cost, $10.50, and then we would also want to expense the T-shirts. And 15 times $10.50 is $157.50. So this is how you would enter the sale of a T-shirt. And now when we run a report, we will find we have 10 T-shirts in inventory at $10.50. So this is a huge feature. Now also, if you'll notice, I don't put the comma in. Ledger, you could put the commas in here, but I find it's just awkward for typing. Ledger is capable of sorting that out if you've got commas or not. No commas. Okay, so this is all I'm going to show you for the changes you have to make to your general journal. Now, I know there's some people following this, Sun, so I'm just going to talk to them directly. In order to play with Ledger, you kind of need a general journal like this. If anybody wants a copy of this, a text file copy of this, just send me a message to my YouTube, and I'll email you this so that you can load Ledger on, and then you've got some data to play with. So that's all we'll do for this tutorial, and good luck. Talk to you later.